Hi, everyone. So, I'm so excited to share a special project that I've been working on. I put out an episode on my podcast, which was episode 13, surrounding the paranormal experiences at the Beverly Center. And in the last 2 years, a year and a half since I put out that episode, I've been collecting stories and going like down the rabbit hole, trying to piece together different situations and different energies and different hotspots within the Beverly Center. So I've talked to literally every single store within the Beverly Center. In the last 2 years, some stores have opened, some stores have closed. Over 100 different people, probably closer to 200, I'd say. Security guards, people working at the mall, people working in the parking garage, workers, customers, FedEx, UPS, like everyone I could possibly talk to. And I'm so excited because I put all of these stories together and I'm going to be sharing a bundle of podcast episodes surrounding the Beverly Center. So this one I'm super excited about. I have three amazing guests, and the Forever 21, which is what this episode is focused on, is one of the definitely most haunted areas of the mall, which is located on the 8th floor. So along with that, I'm super excited because I also brought along my friend, psychic medium Erica Altmiller, with me, and she had no idea where we were going, and we did kind of a blind investigation, and she shared what she picked up on. And you'll hear people's stories of what they've felt, and then I'm going to kind of coincide that with Erica's interpretations and her intuition of what she picks up on, and it's just crazy, the similarities. So this episode is actually just the three girls sharing what they experienced within Forever 21, and then the following episode is going to be what Erica picks up on in Forever 21. So you'll have to listen to both. I recommend kind of similar around the same time, just so you can correlate the stories, but it's literally mind-blowing. And like I said, Erica had no idea where we were going. I picked her up. She didn't even know we were going to the Beverly Center, so it's literally crazy. I'm also going to be sharing some video clips that I have as reels on my Instagram and on my TikTok. And also I'd like to kind of put all of them together to make a video that I'm going to upload on YouTube. I'll share that in the show notes once I have everything completed there. Along with the first episode, I had mentioned this, and I want to mention this also, a trigger warning. This episode does deal with the topic of suicide. And I want to go into this similar to the first, by just sharing that in no way do I want to be disrespectful to any of the situations that have happened, any of the tragedies here. And I want to be as respectful as possible to the families and anyone that has been truly affected by this. It's highly unfortunate, and my whole take on this is really just kind of exploring the energy that's there, sharing people's stories and people's encounters, and like I said, I want to do it in the most respectful way possible. So thank you guys for listening. I'm so excited to share this. Just stay tuned on my Instagram, and I will be posting the follow-up episodes to this. And like I said, if you haven't listened to the first episode, or even if you listened to it and it was a while ago, I recommend going back and listening to it on my podcast. It was episode 13, A Haunting at the Beverly Center. That kind of gives the overview of what we're going to talk about. That's our experience within our temp store, as well as the history of the Beverly Center. And this one's going to be focused around Forever 21. So without further ado, let me introduce to you A Haunting at the Beverly Center, Part 2, Forever 21.
I had heard that it was a haunted, kind of mall or whatever, but I didn't think anything of it. But I had my first few little inklings that something was going on when I was in our fitting room, and I was there in the morning. I got there at 10 o'clock, 10:30 one day, and I was sorting through clothes, and then I heard a whispered "hey" right by my ear, and I turned and there was no one there, and I was like, okay, that's kind of weird. Maybe it's just in my head. The music is playing. Maybe it was just something that I heard, right?
Yeah.
So about 20 minutes go by, and I'm in towards the back of our fitting room, and I'm cleaning up there, and I hear another "hey." And I'm like, okay, there's something going on here. Something is happening. I don't understand what's going on. It's not in my head. It's not music. So that was my first real moment of, okay, there's some kind of energy here. And at the time also, so my store has 2 stories. The upper level, which is now storage and stock and all of that, we used to, it used to be open for customers, right? And towards the back of the upper level, we had our giant sale section there. And I would have customers even tell me that there was like a heavy feeling in that area. And I can agree with that. I don't like going upstairs if I can avoid it. It's just there's something up there. I'm not sure what it is. And also up there, excuse me, I had an old coworker of mine. She was up there with me one night when we were closing. And she suddenly stopped what she was doing. And she said, did anyone else hear that laughter? And I asked her, what are you talking about? What laughter? And she said, it sounds like a little boy laughing. And it makes sense that she would be the one to hear children because she herself had a little boy. At the time, I think he was like maybe 2 or 3. So it would make sense that the little boy that is in the mall or in that area would flock to her because she's a mother.
Right.
So there was that. I've also...
And I was going to ask real quick, the hey that you heard, do you remember, did it sound like male, female?
It sounded like a woman. It sounded female. It was a whispered like, hey. And it just, hearing it twice, just, ooh.
Wow. And yeah, so it wasn't even just one time, it was twice. And
it was twice. Yeah, it was twice. And it was a woman getting my attention.
And how many fitting rooms do you guys have?
So we technically have just the main one that we use for customers. When I first started there, we had 3. We had our main one by our registers, which is extremely large. We have one in our men's section, and then we had a smaller one upstairs. No experiences really with any of them upstairs or the men's one. It was just the main floor one where I had experiences. I've had coworkers. So at one point I had switched to our visual team. So I would do overnight shifts from 12 p.m. to 8 a.m. And as you know, 3 p.m. and overnight shifts when no one is there, that's when, the ghosts come out to play and just chit chat and hang out. So during that time, I would be in our accessory stock room because that's what I did. So as I'm trying, to get my merchandise and all of that, I would have things move. I would set, a box cutter down somewhere, go do something, go back to grab my box cutter, and it would be somewhere else. Wow. It wouldn't be where I left it. Or I would, see like the metal S-hooks to hang things. I would just see them start to move by themselves a little bit, and I would be nowhere near them. A coworker of mine, she had told me that there was one time she had put clothes on a rack, and she had locked it, and all of a sudden she just noticed the rack just moving a little bit. And so we all got in the habit of, we would go and do these overnights, just, say hello to whoever was there, tell them, please leave us alone. We're just doing our job. You leave us alone, we'll leave you alone, kind of a thing.
Well, it's good you were able to establish boundaries with.
Of course. Of course. But I do have my favorite story that I tell all of our new employees and just anyone that I can. This is actually a few years ago at this point, but I was closing down a section at like 9 o'clock at night one night. And, I didn't even have I had one headphone in so I could still hear what was going on. And all of a sudden I heard someone whisper my name in my ear, and I felt someone's breath in my ear to the point where I turned around expecting a coworker to be there trying to scare me, because they all know that I believe in the paranormal, right? And I talked about it. So I'm like, okay, it's a coworker. trying to mess with me. I turn around and there's no one there. So then I hear a manager walking closer to me, and I ask her, hey, did you call me just now? Did you say my name just now? And she stopped dead in her tracks and said, no, I thought you had music going, and that's what I heard.
No way.
So she heard it too. Yes. That's how loud it was.
Wow.
We both freaked out, took a minute to compose ourselves, and went back to what we were doing.
And especially when multiple people, hear the same thing or have the same experience.
Exactly. So that right there really solidified it for me even more than ever, that there's spirits at that place. And even during the mall construction workers had all said that the 7th level where my store is and the 6th level, which is technically the 2nd level of the mall itself, they didn't like it. It gave them a bad energy. It just made them feel uneasy. I've heard stories from a security guard that he saw a woman walking around in a full white dress. She was a Hispanic woman. The gentleman didn't know Spanish. So he said, wait right here. I'm going to get someone who can help you out. So he goes back up, tells his coworker, hey, there's this woman. She needs assistance, da-da-da. And his coworker looked at the cameras and said, there is no one there.
What?
Yes.
And do you know if that happened in your store at all, or where?
It didn't happen in my store. It happened outside of my store.
On the 8th floor?
On the 7th floor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it happened still in the area.
Okay.
Yeah. I had a coworker of mine from the visual team, and I don't know if I believe this story or not, but I kind of believe it. But she told me that years and years ago, she was on our upper level of the store. She was doing an overnight. She was putting jewelry in a glass bowl, and all of a sudden the bowl just shattered. She's like, it wasn't even anything heavy. I didn't even do anything. Just all of a sudden, I turned my back and it shattered.
Wow.
Yeah. And also up on our upper level of my store, now and then you'll catch smells of cigar smoke. And that's a very distinct smell if you know cigar smoke. It's different than cigarettes. It's different than anything else. It's pungent.
Right.
So you can just get whiffs of cigar smoke.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then I don't know if I can talk about this. I think I should. So years ago, I think in the beginning of 2020, I want to say, maybe 2019, I don't remember. But we unfortunately had an incident happen in my store. It was early one morning, and I was in my stock room, and I heard a loud bang.
Right. I
thought it was our cleaning lady accidentally knocking something over because she had earlier that morning. So I ignored it. I went back to merging my stuff. And then our music cut. So then that's when I got curious, when the music cut. So I come out of my stock room, and I see a manager rushing over to lock our back door of our store, because there's an escalator that leads up directly from the mall into our store. So she closed the door, locked it, turned the escalator off. And I asked her, what's going on? What just happened? And then she told me that someone had just committed suicide in one of our dressing rooms. And so we had to, of course, escort her around this, that, and the other. It was a whole ordeal. But now, the gentleman that unfortunately did that, he 100% is still in that fitting room. As crazy as it sounds, his presence is still there at times, because we have a walkie-talkie dock that, for whatever reason, those walkie-talkies will die within 20 minutes of using them. They will be fully charged all night. You'll see a fully charged battery on front of it. In about 20 minutes, it starts beeping that it's dying.
Wow.
So I'm convinced that it's whoever is there, he's using the energy.
Right.
One of my managers has a story. This happened actually a few months ago. She got a call from security at 3 a.m. telling her that the back alarm, where the emergency exit is for the back of the fitting rooms, was going off. Security guard went to go check it out. There was no one there. It's a motion sensor security alarm. There is no way that a bug can set off a motion sensor.
Right.
The only thing that can set it off is some kind of actual movement or a human movement. So,
did they look?
Oh,
sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. Did they look back at the security footage to see what triggered it by any chance?
I don't believe so, but I want to say yes, just for, peace of mind. And another thing that I have noticed, actually, is if we have customers that come in that have dogs, they will not go past a certain point in that fitting room. No. They'll just stop walking. And I even feel a heaviness when I have to go back there and grab a rolling rack or whatever. And it's just instantly this, heavy feeling. But whoever is there, he's not malicious. He doesn't do anything to harm us or scare us. If you just say hello to him and you tell him to have a good night when you're leaving and to just stay there, he's fine. He's cool. He doesn't, he doesn't hurt us. He doesn't threaten anyone. He's never scared. Well, that's a lie. I did have a former coworker of mine that I believe quit because the paranormal activity was just too much for her, and they were targeting her specifically.
What happened?
It was when I was still on the visual team, and this girl is, it matters for context, but she's extremely religious. She's very devout Christian. And so because of that, I think some of the ghosts targeted her. They would, knock things off that would be near her head if she was in the stock room. They would, just have things fall near her, just to do anything to scare her, because they knew that she would be afraid.
Right.
They knew that they could do anything small and she would be afraid of it. So that's exactly what they did. And eventually it got to be too much for her. So she had to quit.
Wow. And I really feel, just listening to your stories, that there's definitely, several ghosts or spirits there too.
There 100% is. Like I said, there's the recent gentleman. I know there's a woman there. I know there's a little boy there, which I've heard other stories from other people in parts of the mall to confirm that. But what's so interesting, though, is if you try to do any research about the mall and about, what used to be there, the only thing that really comes up is that apparently it used to be a carnival fairground. But you can't find anything about any deaths, anything like that.
Yeah, it's really hard to find any info. I tried checking, too.
Yeah, I've been so interested and intrigued by it, and I can't find anything that's why? So we need to get, ghost hunters, ghost adventures out there. We need to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, because
I want to know.
There's so many stories that correlate that I've come through with just talking to people and my investigations, and just the different levels, all three different levels, the way that the mall is constructed, the history, the remodel. There's so much energy there. And even with your store too, I find it to be really interesting. There's that one escalator that connects from, is it the 7th floor up to your floor? It's just a single escalator.
Yes, because our store used to be an old movie theater.
Oh, okay. That makes sense now.
That's why it's built like that, because it used to be a movie theater.
Okay. And how long has your second floor been closed for?
I want to say 7 years.
Okay, so it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while, but there's still something up there.
Yeah, I wonder if, something during the movie theater time, something like that had happened. Also, I'm curious, there's a woman on the 7th floor that I had talked to who works in the luggage store, and she had mentioned, and I don't know in direct relation where it is, but she had said that there's a gap between your store and where her store is, because it's a lot higher. She said that there's a gap space in between the floors, and that the only thing that she has come up with that is, weird or paranormal is that she'll hear footsteps and walking through there, but she said that it would be empty.
Yes, we can hear. Yes, it's actually once you said that. Yes, I've actually heard footsteps when I'm in my stock room or what have you, and it'll seem like there's someone walking above me, but obviously there's no way that anyone can be up there.
Yeah,
So
I'm
I've
curious
heard
what it
footsteps.
is.
I don't know.
So now we have to investigate that part too.
Yes, but what about your stories? What do you have?
So for my stories, right now I'm back on the seventh floor because we were downstairs in a temp space on the sixth floor last year.
Okay.
And in our store now, there's nothing. And before there's nothing. Like I don't think that there couldn't be anything, but we just haven't had any solid experiences. And I've been there 5 years now.
Yeah.
But when we were downstairs on the sixth floor last year for less than a year, it was nonstop from the day we moved in until the day we left. And up until that point, I never really like got into, researching the Beverly Center, the history, because I didn't even think that there was any weird energy there until we experienced it firsthand. And then that's what really got me like interested in like hearing other people's stories and trying to piece things together. But yeah, definitely we had like a psychic tune in to our space, and she, mentioned that there was like a woman there in a dress because we would hear heels walking in the back. And we never told her any details before. She said that there were two little boys there. Yeah, so it correlates exactly with what you're saying. And also, she mentioned one time there was a guy wearing like a cowboy type hat.
I've heard about that. That there's like an older gentleman. He's like a cowboy type, kind of like a John Wayne kind of a guy. So it's really interesting.
Which that could maybe explain like the tobacco smoke up on your second level.
Yes, actually, yeah. And it would make sense too if there's, a couple little boys. Of course, they're little kids. They're going to run around their entire playground, basically.
Especially the sixth floor too. The sixth.
Yes.
I know. I mean, I'm sure your floor too, but I've heard a lot of kid like activity with Foot Locker and Zara kids on the sixth floor.
Interesting. I'm gonna have to talk to some people because I'm intrigued now even more.
And then the other thing, which I'll just tell you really quick, what I'm finding, because I'm kind of going through with a map and just like marking off what stores have had what experiences, and I came along to the other side of the mall. So I didn't really know much about it, like the Bloomingdale's, GNC, Politics, Bath and Body Works. I've talked to someone from each of those stores, and they all shared with me the same experience, and they didn't know that I like talked to the other stores.
Stop it.
Yes, I have chills telling you this right now. There's a shadow figure on that side of the mall.
No! Don't tell me that.
Yeah.
Don't tell me that. Don't tell me that. Absolutely not.
They all have seen it.
Oh, that's terrifying. Oh, I got chills.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And someone also in Bloomingdale said that there's on the 8th floor, he said this was like 10 years ago, but he had worked there for a while, and he had mentioned that he saw two little kids running like on the 8th floor, and they had ran back into the stockroom, and he followed them back in there, and he went in there and there was no one there.
Oh gosh. Oh goodness gracious. Absolutely not. See, I don't know. I've never seen anything, and I don't know if actually no, that's a lie. I have actually. Yes. On Sunday night, actually, I was in the front of the store, and I was folding T-shirts on a table or something, and where I was standing, we have pillars around for support beams, obviously, but they have mirrors on them. And I had looked up for 2 seconds, and I glanced over at the mirror, and I swear to God, hand on my heart, I saw something. I don't know if it was like an actual shadow, or if it was that shadow thing, but I saw something to the point where I stopped what I was doing. Wow. And composed myself again and had to tell myself, you're okay, it's fine, it's nothing, it's your imagination, finish what you're doing.
Right.
So you can go home.
That's wild.
Oh gosh. Yeah, no, there's a lot there. There is a lot at that mall. And even so across from my store, and there used to be a cafe there, a little like, cafe or whatever. And I was chit-chatting with a barista there one day during a break, and she even had experiences. She's like, yeah, we've had lights flicker on and off. We've had, our faucets turn on and off. We've had our steamers turn on and off on their own.
Now, that's...
She's like, I don't...
I'm sorry, that's the one across from Uniqlo, right? That's like abandoned now.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now.
Yeah. There was a barista there that told me that she had experienced lights flickering. She experienced their water steamers or whatever they are, their milk steamers. I don't know what they are, but those turning on just on their own for no reason.
That's wild because I feel like it's been abandoned since around COVID, because I remember going up there.
Yeah, it's been abandoned since COVID.
And it's creepy now. I was actually up there the other night, like walking past after my shift. And it's creepy. And there's still like remnants of like coffee on the counter. Like it looks like people just up and left.
That's scary.
And I don't think that you would go down this way to get into your store, but there's like a freight hallway or back hallway directly next to it going back.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Have you been down that one at all?
Not that one, no. I use the one next to Uniqlo.
Okay. So that one, and I don't consider myself super sensitive. Like I could pick up on, small things here or there, but there's a feeling there that is so obvious.
Ooh.
If you walk back there, it kind of veers off. You can go to the left or to the right. I went a couple times to the right, and you just feel this overwhelmingly heavy, like suffocating feeling.
Oh, Jesus, Murphy.
So if you're looking to get a little, adventurous, I say check it out. And I'm curious to see what you would think, because I talked to someone who works at H&M, and he had shared that hallway always has freaked him out. But there's definitely an energy back there. And I was walking with my coworker one time. We were just, back there, and that was the entrance to the old food court. And there's like a little crack in the door that you can kind of peek through to see. So we both did that. And then we were just standing looking at each other, just saying like, the energy shifted. It feels really weird, really heavy. The hair was like standing up on the back of our neck. And immediately the door to the food court, which we never touched, we didn't, try to open it or anything. It like settled, like it made this loud sound, like it had fully closed in. And we just looked at each other, and we like ran back to the main part of the mall, like the 8th floor outside.
Yeah. Oh my God.
But yeah, there's something back there. And I talked to one of the security guards the other day, and she had mentioned that she had on multiple occasions, like, the doors going back there will kind of open up on their own, like motion detector.
Yeah.
And that one always just does it on its own randomly, and there'll be no one around. And she says she gets a bad feeling back there too.
Ooh. I really just want to explore this mall when it's closed. I really want to.
Yeah.
Like, I want to know who is there. I want to know why they're still there. I don't want to explore the shadow figure, though. That legitimately scares me. I don't like that.
Yeah, the one store that I had talked to someone, Politics, I believe, and there was a guy there, and he had said that he had been there a while, and it was almost on a nightly basis to where he would be in the back, like in the stockroom with the bays or the gars, and he would see like a shadow out of the corner of his eye, to where once they start getting ready for close, he was just ready to leave.
Yeah.
Tried to get out as quick as possible, and one of their customers is a sensitive, and she was just kind of sharing what she felt there, and she had even given him a name. She was able to tune into like the shadow figure's name, which I have to like research to see maybe we can come up with who this person could have been. But she said he definitely wasn't dark, but he didn't want other people in his space, so he was kind of just like holding his own.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Huh. I also really want, and this is just me being empathetic, but I also really want whoever is there, I want them to find peace. I want them to cross over.
Right.
I don't want them to be stuck there, because especially, the little kids, the women that are there, there's obviously multiple women that are there. There's, the cowboy figure, and I especially want the shadow figure gone.
Yeah.
I want them to all find peace.
Right.
Go away.
No,
you make some of us uncomfortable.
I totally agree. And I feel called, and I think there's a reason, like, we connected, and there's some other people that I've met along the way that are really have been awesome in sharing their experiences. So I feel like it's on us to kind of share and amplify this story and hopefully help them find peace.
Definitely. Because there's a reason why spirits connect to certain people. Because a lot of my coworkers, they've said, oh, I've never experienced anything. I've never had anything happen. I don't believe in any of it. Well, it's like, that's why, because you don't believe in it.
Yeah.
Because you're not opening yourself up to it, or you've never had anything, you've never experienced a real tragic loss in your life.
And I think exactly... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and I think exactly what you did was spot on, because you weren't showing fear. You were just establishing boundaries. You have good intentions. So you kind of just started with this solid foundation.
Exactly. And that's the way I've always believed because my whole logic has always been we're energy, and energy can't be contained when we die. So it makes sense that there's still connecting forces to that mall and that area in general.
Right.
Because that energy can't leave. It's stuck there, unfortunately.
We're talking about it, I think, about a week ago. And then, the couple following days, we started having more experiences happening to us. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I guess start in the beginning, maybe like when you first started working there, or when you first noticed that there was maybe some paranormal activity.
Sure. So I was interviewed and hired right before the incident in the fitting room had happened. I wasn't aware of it at the time, but when I first started working my shifts, I would feel like a presence watching me, and nobody ever told me anything, and I never asked because I didn't want to seem like a weirdo.
Right.
So around that same time that I started working, the company was going through a shift where we were getting employees from different locations working with us.
Uh-huh.
And one day, I had a coworker, and she came running up to me. It was after close, and she said that she was in the fitting room, and she saw that the hangers were shaking violently, and she told me she didn't want to be there by herself. And neither of us had had known what had happened still at the time. So I just went with her just to give her some comfort to the fitting room. And even when I would walk through the fitting room by myself, I would feel this heavy energy with me. I'm not a psychic or anything, but I just sometimes I can feel a shift in energy.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And then once all the employees were settled in their locations, and we got new managers and stuff, they told me about the incident in the fitting room. And I actually had another coworker who was working there at the time who was also present the day it happened. And yeah, she told me that it was scary, and it was nerve-wracking.
Right, just a overwhelmingly intense and sad situation.
Yeah. And so after that, I would experience I would fold clothes on the table, and I would turn back, and 5 minutes later they were already messed up, as if someone had was looking through them or something, and then it just didn't bother to put it back or anything. And I would also experience people or hearing things someone coming up to me and whispering my name right by my ear, or tugging at my clothes almost. It was really weird.
And with those, I wanted to ask, did it sound like a male or female voice, or you weren't really able to make it out?
It sounded mostly male.
Male.
Yeah. It was a deep masculine voice.
Uh-huh.
And even So our store, the second floor is closed off, and that's where we keep most of our stock and inventory. And even going upstairs by myself, it's very eerie. And I've also heard people's experiences where it would be as like the same thing that I had experienced, where they would fold clothes and it'd be like messed up the next day, or you feel somebody watching you. And it's just pretty scary. Like it's pretty scary to be there, but up there by yourself.
Yeah. And I was gonna ask real quick before I forget, like the pulling of the clothes, was it like a certain area? Was it like, could it have been like a kid, for example? Was it like, the only reason I ask is because I heard a couple other incidents of where it was like around the knees, like it was like a little kid almost tugging at the clothing. So I was just curious.
Yeah, so I'm I'm a pretty short person. I'm under 5 feet.
Uh-huh.
And so for me, it would come right up my waist.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I wear like long flowy things sometimes. So it does feel like a kid is like pulling at me, trying to get my attention or something.
Yeah. And does it feel, and I know you said you're not, like a psychic by any means, but as far as just kind of sensing whatever energy you feel or whatever vibe comes to you, does it feel like it could be like childlike or more masculine, more feminine? Or if there's multiple, you feel like multiple, spirits possibly.
I think I feel multiple spirits.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because sometimes, like, it's, like, in the fitting room, I sense that it was masculine, but if I'm working on the floor, like, the tugging at my clothes, it's more childish.
Uh-huh.
In a way, I'm able to differentiate the two. But if we're in our break room, for example, there's multiple things that I have experienced, and I'm not able to differentiate what is what is masculine, or what is feminine.
Yeah. What have you experienced in the break room or the stock room? You said.
Yeah. So one time I was on my break, and that's where we keep some of our sale inventory back there, and so I heard footsteps going down the hall, and almost as if someone was playing with the hangers on the clothes.
Oh, no.
And, yeah. And so I got up just to see if it was one of my coworkers or a manager. And there's also, like, down the hall, if you turn the corner, there's a fire exit. So, but there's nothing there. So I turned that corner too, and I didn't see anybody there either.
No, is that like the back exit that you guys would enter into, like the mall back hallway?
Yeah, that's kind of like the back rooms almost. Like, okay. Yeah, we don't really use that entrance, but because we only go through like the main entrance or the escalator that goes up.
Right, and that's the thing with your store too. I feel like there's so many like unique spaces since it was a movie theater before, and just different rooms that were like converted into something else, and I feel like there's so much there.
Yeah, like there's so much space that we could use, but we don't, and yeah. I'm not sure why, but we just don't. Because I've noticed that a lot of stores like Uniqlo or H&M, they do use those back entrances, but we don't.
Interesting. Is it because you guys don't have like the inventory to fill it, or you guys just...
I think it's that. Yeah. Only because the company did start downsizing about 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we're only able to use that one single floor, the main floor, and not the second floor. But even then, even when I had started working there, the second floor was already closed.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was wondering how long it had been closed for.
Yeah, I mean, it's been closed for a while now. I'm not sure how long, but it's been a while, like maybe 5 years now.
Yeah, and besides like the fitting room and then the second floor and the stock room, are there any other like hotspots in the store or areas that activity like seems to keep occurring?
Yeah, so there's a fitting room upstairs that's completely dark. There's maybe very dim lighting, but other than that, it's very dark. And it's also connected to one of those back hallways. And I was there one morning because I was doing some visual work. And it was way before we opened. And I was grabbing some like metal pegs and stands. And I heard footsteps again, like from the other side of the fitting room. And I was in the back hallway. So I peeked over. I didn't see anybody. And then once I got what I needed, I went back downstairs and I told my coworker, and I was like, I heard some footsteps. I'm not sure if any of you guys were up there, but, you know, just let me know. And they said no one had been up there, and that everybody was either on their break or, you know, just doing what they needed to do to get the store ready. So I felt kind of,
That's so creepy. Are there any other experiences that you've had outside of the store in the mall, or any other feelings that you get?
That's a good question. I don't think so, personally, only because I'm only walking through the mall pretty fast.
Yeah.
So I'm not able to, you know, catch up on things like that as quickly.
Right.
But only because, like, if I'm on my break, for example, I'm, like, speed walking to Starbucks and coming back, just so I can get at least 10 minutes of my break in.
Yeah. No, I feel you on that.
Yeah. So, I don't think so, only because, like, I don't spend that much time in the mall by myself.
Right.
I have heard some experiences from people at Foot Locker and H&M, but other than that, like, I don't think I've picked up anything.
Yeah. Are there any other stories or anything else that you wanted to share based off of, you know, just the vibe that you get or the energy?
No, I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah. No.
Like,
sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Like, I do feel people calling my name or, like, whispering my name, or, like, the tugging at my clothes. Yeah. Or another thing, too, is that, like, if I'm working at the registers, things would be misplaced. And it's, like, little things, like pens or, like, tags and stuff like that. It's always misplaced, and the registers are right in front of the fitting room.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not sure what...
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty sure it was the guy who had worked from corporate. I like to think he's just messing with us.
Yeah, keeping you guys on your toes.
Yeah, making sure we're doing our job.
I worked at Beverly Center from 2004 to 2021. And yeah, we experienced a lot of things. And if you remember, we were in the small location for a couple of years, and then the owners bought the theater, and the theater became the new location, and that's where we moved. And both locations had a lot of paranormal events. They both carry, like, different feelings. Like, I feel like the new location became more toxic. I don't know why.
I was going to ask where was the first location at? And that was in 2004 when you started, right?
Yes, the old location was with what's it called? Like that Japanese store, that clothing store is now.
Oh, Uniqlo.
Yes, we were there.
Oh, so still on the 8th floor, just the other side. Okay.
Yeah, we were there from what I know for a couple of years, like since maybe the 90s or so. And I think 2009 or 10 or 11. I don't remember. We moved to the theater.
When the theater shut down, you guys took over there.
Well, not so much that they shut down. The owner bought it.
Oh, so it was still operating up until that time then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the owner bought it for like, I think, 5 mil. Yeah.
Wow. So what did you experience? I guess we can start in the first store, like when you first started.
Okay. Oh, yeah. I was already intrigued by the paranormal because I always been a sensitive kid in the spiritual world. I'm a twin. I think that has to do with it as well. And so I was already like aware of my surroundings spiritually, and we would stay really late. I was a closer, so I would come in at 5, and our time to leave was 11, but we were not allowed to leave until everything was back on the floor,
Right.
in retail. And so sometimes we stayed until 2 in the morning.
Wow.
So sometimes, we would sneak away to like relax in the bathrooms, and I did that a lot.
Yeah.
And I remember one of those times that I was in the bathroom by myself, like after midnight. I was just sitting there, and there was no reason for this box to move the way it was moving, and it looked like somebody was opening the box, like the tape and everything. And it wasn't moist where the tape would have rolled out, or it wasn't like there was no ventilation, like there was no reason. And you know how you try to debunk it scientifically, like what is happening,
Right.
And I was like, okay, I think I'm witnessing like a ghost, like somebody's trying to open that box, and I don't know, maybe it could be residual, or like it's somebody that used to work here and is just working again. I don't know. And I remember going like, I got scared, but I was more curious. So I asked I went up to the manager and I was like, hey, I told him what happened, and he just looked at me, and I don't remember if it was a manager girl or guy, a girl or a guy, but I remember that they were like, "Oh yeah, like get used to that," and I was like, "Oh, so this is normal? Like
Oh, wow.
This is normal. This happens." And people, when you're in like that kind of environment, they're like, ignore that and just get to work, get your work together. And so I was like, "Oh, so this is just part of the way things are here." And yeah, people will always talk about being touched, hearing their name called, or one thing that I've always witnessed was our racks of clothes. They were so heavy, the only way they would move were if you were pulling or pushing. And they were moved by themselves. Like they would roll down. And I would look at them like the hell? Like who's pulling? Nobody was pulling, nobody was pushing, but my racks of clothes were moving.
And is this in both locations, like the older one
Yes.
and
No,
the new
that
one
was
too?
in both locations.
Oh, wow.
That was in both locations, yeah.
So was there anything else, I guess, from the older location, and then we can kind of move on to the new location from what you remember?
You know what? That was pretty much it. Like, I remember, I don't remember more from the old location, but of course, there was way more stuff in the new location, and especially after the suicide.
Yeah. And I did, real quick, with where Uniqlo currently is located, I actually went in there and I talked to one of the managers, and he mentioned that they do joke around that there's a ghost in the stockroom, but that's all he kind of said. So I guess, yeah, it would be consistent with what you said.
Oh, yeah. It always felt like, you know what? The rooms were always really cold. And I know that could have been the AC, but it was more like, I don't know, it was like a different kind of cold. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, but I could say that, yeah, there was something there.
And then when did you move to the approximately like the newer location? Like where you guys are at now?
I think I might be wrong. I think it was a little after 2010.
Okay. So did you notice things when you first moved in? Did things start like right off the bat?
No. It was a little after everything kind of calmed down, like it settled. Because there were so much people in there opening, helping open a new store, and there was so many things happening and moving that you couldn't pay attention to the little things.
Yeah.
Once, like maybe like a couple weeks, maybe even 2 months after that, when it got quiet and you start working your regular shifts and hours. That's when you start noticing again. But I feel like I really noticed it maybe 2 years later when we started coming in earlier. I think we used to sometimes come in at 4 or 5 in the morning.
Oh, wow.
And all the way in the back of the store, there's another back room. And that back room is super creepy because it goes all the way in and it curves. I don't know what that was before, but we made it into a stock room, of course. And if you were there by yourself, you will hear some doors open and there was no one there. There was this one time, I wasn't there, but they told me the next day, this accessory girl went in by herself to leave her bag because we had our stuff there as well. And she said as soon as she opened the door and she walked in, somebody said, hello. And she said she screamed and she started crying and they sent her home.
Oh, wow.
Because they sent her home and she said, somebody said, hello? Somebody said hi to her. Yeah, and she'll never forget that. After that, she wouldn't go in by herself. She always would ask somebody or would leave the doors open.
Someone else to come. Now, did any of anything that you experienced, did you pick up on anything, whether it felt like male, female, age, anything like that you were able to pick up?
For me, it always changed. It changed from kids to a guy, like a male. It was like either you thought it was kids like running around or moving things, or it was like this guy. We always saw a guy, but it was like a silhouette and that feeling that it wasn't a woman, it was a guy.
And did it make you feel any kind of way? Was it
No, actually, for me at least, it was just, as funny as it sounds, it was just like our ghost. Like we just knew he was around. Nobody talked about it because it was a few of us that really enjoyed the paranormal side of things. It was maybe like 2 of us or 3, and the rest were like, don't talk about it, like ignore it, la la la, and it was a toxic environment as well. So people didn't really talk to each other as much, or we were not allowed to talk. Yeah.
Interesting. And I also know that you guys had 2 floors too. Did you notice anything different between the first floor and the second floor?
100%. The second floor, oh my God, it was creepy, scary. By the cashier, there was a door, and it was a room. Again, it was a room that we didn't even know why they made it or left it. Well, again, we made it into a stock room, and if you were there by yourself, you would hear talking, and we used to think maybe it's outside, like the emergency exit, and maybe there's people on the other side talking. So one day, I think we did open it, like to see if somebody was there, and we didn't see anybody. But you will hear talking.
Oh, that's creepy.
You couldn't hear or understand what they were saying, but there was talking for sure amongst 2 people. All the time.
Yeah, and like you said, you're trying to debunk it too to make sure it's not another store or thin walls or anything like that.
Yeah, we were always curious, like, what is that? Like, is that like securities, like hanging out and just talking? The Beverly Center securities, or what the hell? And no, nothing. There was nothing.
And it is interesting and also kind of creepy because, like you said, there are these extra rooms. Because if it, was designed to be a movie theater, it would be a little bit different than what a store would be designed, or how it would be designed, which I think is interesting. And there was one room, which maybe it was the one you described earlier. I had talked to a woman who worked in the luggage store on the 7th floor, and she mentioned above her store, which I think would be in Forever 21, their space.
Yes,
it was like an empty room, and she said that she would hear like footsteps and just weird sounds, and she didn't know like what part of the mall that would be or who that would be.
I think that would have been the Beverly Center. Yeah.
Or it could have been, I don't know if it was the first space you were describing, it kind of curved because her luggage store kind of curves and it's above that skinny escalator that goes up, like the single escalator.
Yes. And from that luggage store would be under one of the stock rooms.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's what it is then.
Mm-hmm.
Because the way she was describing it, which sounded creepy, she said that your store started a little bit higher than what this space would have been. It was almost like extra, like a gap in between the floors, and she didn't know what that could have been because she would hear like walking and things like that, and it just didn't make sense.
I mean, yes, I think so, because then I think there would be extra space there. The only thing I could say that there was a huge stock room there.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm sure it has to be fit in somewhere.
Yeah. And another thing, I don't know if you ever heard of this, but the security guards, they would always tell us that our alarms would go off. The Beverly Center, the Forever 21 alarms would go off, and they would go check, and there was nothing. But the alarm that would go off was that it was telling them that somebody is walking inside.
Like a motion detector.
Yeah, yes.
Did you guys ever check the security footage to see if there was anything captured on camera?
You know what, from what I remember, I think they did, and there was nothing.
Yeah.
Like, they couldn't see anything. And then we would get texts, like if you were a key holder, which I was at the end, we would get texts like saying alarm, like security alarm off, like at 2 a.m. or 4, and somebody, like mostly the store manager or something, would get a phone call saying the alarm will go off, or the alarm went off, and blah blah blah. And yeah, I have those texts saved.
Oh, no way! I want to see if you're comfortable there.
Yes, of course. Yeah, I could totally text you. I think I have a really old one saved, and I always thought it was the funniest thing. It's like, what? That's weird, you know?
Yeah, so creepy.
Mm-hmm.
And then, did the energy change? I guess maybe like the last few years you were there, or even actually, I want to ask with the remodel of the mall in 2015. Did you notice any activity amp up during that time?
Oh my God, I can't. I couldn't say. I don't. I mean, maybe, but for us, I think, at least me, that I would notice it was always active.
Yeah, because it was busy for you guys all the time, so I'm sure it's just like another day.
Yeah, pretty much. But things got a little bit creepier, of course, again, after the guys took his life in the fitting room.
Right. Did you guys notice anything at that point? Like it changed or shifted?
It became more sad. Like if you were, again, they closed that fitting room at the time for a couple of weeks. I think even like 3 months, and we made it again into a stock room because we were not gonna waste time or space, I guess. And I would go in there and I would work because sometimes I had to take stuff out, and I would talk to him. I go, hey, I'm gonna be in your space. Don't scare me. And it would suddenly get really cold and sad, like sad, not angry, or anything else. It would get just devastating, there was like, I don't know, a sad, like sorrow.
Right.
Somebody was in a really sad place.
Mm-hmm.
And I would, sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, I would be a little crazy and be like, sorry it happened. Like, hope you're in a better place. Like.
Yeah, and that's really nice that you're, acknowledging his presence and just empathizing.
Mm-hmm.
And being really respectful too.
One of the stock manager, her name is Girly. She actually brought. I wasn't there at the time that it happened because I had taken leave. they told me that she came in and she actually, with holy water, she did like a prayer or something in the feeding room.
Oh, and did she notice? Did anything change afterwards?
I think, yeah, we were just trying to bring peace to the person.
Right.
Like, don't be angry at us. Like, don't, like, we believe in stuff like that. So we're like, don't curse us, don't curse the place because we have a lot to do.
Right, and just for him to find peace.
Yeah. And I think one of the things I did do a video on TikTok was, it happened to me and this other girl. We came in at 6 a.m, and it was just literally just me and her. She was, I think, a little after. She was counting the registers, if I remember well. So she was by the feeder room in the first floor where it happened. And I was on the other side putting some stuff, some clothes on the wall. So I was on a ladder on the wall putting some stuff away, and I see her from afar rushing to me, and I'm just looking at her like, what? Like, what's? And I know something was wrong because she had that face of like when somebody gets like scared and terrified. And I looked at her and I was like, what's up with you? And she was like, and she couldn't talk. She almost was like in the verge of tears. And I'm like, what? And I looked to the feeder room and I knew it. Oh my God, he scared her or something happened. And she was like, there's walking. And she said she heard footsteps and somebody moving around the feeder room. And she was like, oh, hell no. And she started rushing to me. But she was terrified. She was like almost crying. And as she's telling me this, I'm on the ladder looking at her like, oh my God, you need to calm down, okay? Because you're going to have a breakdown or something. There was an item on the wall just flew out. Like it flew out for no reason. And I always tell people, there's footage of this because we were literally by a camera when there was no reason for this. Like it looked like somebody just threw it.
No
but there
way.
was nobody there. And I was like, okay. And I look at her and she's about to scream. And I'm like, breathe. And I think I heard something like, okay, you let yourself known. You need to like cool down. Like we hear you, just, I don't know. I think I was trying to really ease her out because I was more worried about her than the ghost. Because I was like, this girl's about to pass out.
And especially because both of you guys had experienced it, and it was two things back to back: the footsteps and then the item moving.
Oh yeah. For her, it was two things, and for me, it was like that item move. And for me, it was like, oh wow. For her, it was like, no,
Would you say that a majority of your coworkers throughout the years had experiences, or did it seem like certain people had more than others?
I'm not gonna lie. I think everybody has a story.
Wow.
Only a few will talk about it, though. There's people that would deny it, like, you guys are dumb, you guys are crazy. And I'm like, later on, little by little, they were like, oh yeah, I they will say their little story. And I will be like, what happened to like ignore it, But yeah, throughout the years, everybody has a story. No matter who it was, they had a story.
And for some of the other spirits or ghosts there, would you say that any ideas of why that they're there?
So of course, we started investigating, like, what? And then we found out early on that there was some kind of, like, what's it called? Like a little, not fair, but...
like a kid's amusement park?
Yes. And when we found that out, we're like, oh, it makes sense for the kids we hear. Like the little running, the little playing, or when they move our stuff or whatever. I'm like, wow, that makes sense. And when we thought about the darker entities that will actually scare us or like touch us, we thought about the hospital across the street.
That's
We're like, oh,
true.
the people that passed away or something, because we would get a lot of. I didn't know that Cedar Sinai has like a ward. So we would get a lot of people with schizophrenia or whatever, and they would just. You could tell they they just got out of the hospital because they had the bracelets or whatever, and they would do really insane stuff. And we would try to be very like cool with them. And sometimes we did have to call the security and whatever, but I wonder if any of them passed away and their spirit wasn't at peace, because we would get sometimes those scary moments that we did get scared, you know?
Right.
Especially when we would get tapped a lot in our shoulder, or some people used to get pinched. And I thought that was, even though that's scary, I thought it was funny. I'm like, who pinches?
Have you ever felt anything touch you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
all the
wow.
time. I always, the funniest thing I think was the pulling of the hair. We did like feel like somebody was pulling on our hair. We would turn and we thought it was a friend or a coworker playing. And then you would discover there was no one around. Like nobody.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Have you sensed anything in any other parts of the mall? Or have you heard any stories about anything else?
Well, I mean, the stories of all the guy jumping out of the parking lot and landing in front of Chipotle.
And I was gonna ask, do you know what was it, the 5th floor or was it from the 8th floor? Do you know?
Oh no! The guy jumped from. It had to be the 3rd or 4th floor parking lot.
Okay.
Because he landed right in front of Chipotle. Yeah, and it was a guy. Yeah, he just jumped.
Do you know what time frame?
If I remember well, this had to be 2008.
Okay.
Like around that time.
Yeah.
If you look it up, I mean, I'm horrible at searching for stuff sometimes, so I didn't find anything, but I was there. I was working when it happened. So it happened, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I could never find like evidence, like paperwork. And I'm like, okay, well, okay, that's weird because it did happen. Like we were there. Like,
yeah,
this guy jumped.
Really hard to like find info on the history and different things that have happened there too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Especially the longer the time has passed, I feel like it's harder and harder.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, if you ask like a security person at Beverly Center, they don't talk about it unless you become friends with them.
Uh-huh.
They'll start spilling the beans. That's what happened to me. I on purpose became friends with one of them, an older gentleman, and of course, because I like making friends and stuff like that. But I'm like, this is going to benefit me because I want to ask. And my questions were usually about why did the alarms, what happened when the alarms went off, and I would ask, and they would tell me the little story about how they would come and they didn't see anybody, but it was obvious that something set them off. It could have been technical, but it was so much. It happened so much that it. I think they did send people to fix the problem, and I think the person was like, "There's no problem."
Yeah, like something had to have triggered it.
Yeah. So I remember our gates were always getting messed up, and we wouldn't understand why. And they would come and fix them, and they were like, "Everything's fine." And I'm like, who is making these gates get stuck?
Yeah. Seriously.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to ask, because you worked there when the food court was there. Did you ever get any vibes or anything from the food court?
No, I'm not gonna lie. No, I did eat in the patio a lot as well, and when we could go outside, and that was a little creepy. I even sometimes when I was by myself there, I always felt like somebody was around, but I don't know. It was out in the open. It was really nice and quiet.
Yeah. Do you have
Yeah.
any theories to why still, like 10 years later, they don't use that whole wing?
Hmm.
I'm curious because you would think, I mean, on the reviews of the Beverly Center, the number one complaint is that there's no food, no food court. And I mean, it's sat empty for
Yeah.
10 years. You would think, I mean, I can understand, a few years here and there or like during the pandemic, sure, but for it to be like 10 years that nothing has been there is kind of
It
crazy.
is. Yeah. It is the weirdest thing ever because when it was the food court, it was like the biggest food. Like it wasn't like the best, but it was big and sorry, and people there. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why they closed it off. It never made sense to us either.
I know, it's wild. And I actually want to tell you something really quick. One of my creepy experiences just a couple weeks ago, I was just walking around the eighth floor, and I don't know if you would have been down this hallway because I don't think it was the same entrance as Forever 21, but it's like behind H&M, the hallway between the La Mille Cafe and
Oh yes. I remember that one. Yeah.
there's a hallway there, and I walked down with one of my coworkers, and um, you walk down and it starts to feel a little weird, and then you could go left or right, and the right side, which leads to where the food court was
Mm-hmm.
was so creepy. It was just
Yeah.
an overwhelming, suffocating feeling. Like you just that even thinking about it now, I have chills. Like the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. Like it's just so distinctly different than anywhere else that I've been in the mall.
Oh.
Yeah, it was crazy, and both of us felt it, and we, yeah, it was crazy. And then we heard the door move on its own, and none of us touched it, and there was no one there. So we like looked at each other, and we're like, we got to get out of here.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's so interesting.
Yeah,
I love
that was
it. I love
crazy. That was
it.
crazy. But yeah, I guess is there anything else that you wanted to mention about Forever 21 or your time there or anything else?
I could. Talking about the way you feel and everything. For me, I've always felt that where the Beverly Center, I mean, where the Part 1 location is, it always felt like the vibes were always toxic. Like you would have a good morning and you were happy, and you step into work, and then all that happiness was gone. It was anxiety, depression, anger, toxic. And I always thought, what the hell? And I'm like, is it like the vibes here? Like, what happened here? And that you could see people change as well. Like, people were just angry, and people that were nice would become angry. And I would always step back and be like, I'm like, is it here? Like, yes, it has to be. Like, yeah, it always felt negative sometimes. Well, most of the time.
Interesting. Yeah, and then it's not just, a few people that work there. It's a big store with a big staff, so it's if it's consecutive
Mm-hmm.
across the board and a lot of people are having these experiences, then
Yeah.
that tells you
Yeah.
something.
Mm-hmm.